This is Ehren Clodfelter. Just thank you so much for coming and letting me interview you like this.
Of course.
I really appreciate it. So yeah, I guess you made the trek over, which is great. Came over. It's a little hot outside, and what do we have to talk about? I want to just see sort of what your process of being an artist has been like. I mean, everybody's got a story, but
Everybody.
Well, and I just think some people have had a more strategic direction than others, and some have learned certain lessons and figured some stuff out that maybe other people that haven't been working as long or haven't been at it as long would benefit from hearing about. So I just thought I'd sit you down and ask you some questions.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah.
So I guess for starters, what is your medium, and how did you kind of come to be an artist? How did you come to art for yourself?
I think, let's see, how I came to be an artist was gradual and then completely immediate. I was always very creative and interested in it, but never really approached art on a deeper, more need to live way until probably 4.5 years ago. Yeah, so I would think probably before I moved to New York, I was definitely in this almost kind of desperate space to find myself. And coming to New York and pursuing art was that kind of immediate switch into being an artist, like a real artist.
How do you define a real artist for you? I mean, did you ever look out at people and how they were, how their relationships to art were, and feel like that person's a real artist and that person's not?
Well, I think what I consider the attributes of being an artist, over time, those get smaller and smaller, and kind of what defines an artist. I think what I'm realizing now, it goes far beyond technique and focuses more on kind of understanding.
Understanding, just in your perspective and how you look at the world?
Yeah, how you look at the world and how you can fully experience and feel the world around you, and then put that back onto your canvas or your paper, whatever your medium would be.
Yeah, it's funny. I've totally agree. There's something about just the perspective of it that's really unique. I've thought about it in terms of, so I have some, friends that are artists, people in my family are artists. We all know plenty of them. And I was talking with, I think it was maybe my cousin or someone in my family, my extended family, and they were talking about how excited they were about a car that they could get. And there was this thing that they were so excited it was going to be released soon. They've been looking at it. They were so happy about it. And I was like, why does that that's great. There's you want to get this car, but you're sounding as excited as one of my artist friends would be about getting art supplies or getting an opportunity to show their work. I was like, what is this difference, this fundamental difference that I'm feeling? And I realized for me, there's kind of a difference in your perspective where you're either, you're a consumer or you're a creator. And a lot of times you're both, but when you're a personal, what you're just dying to go do is sometimes it's about getting something, and a lot of times for artists I think it's about I can't deal with the world as it is. I have to make something I haven't seen before. What I'm already looking at isn't enough. I need to make something. And that's just such a different flow of energy. It's just a different...
Because I think everyone feels things and experiences things, but I think artists I think their biggest goal is to feel things, and feel things that people maybe normally don't pay attention to. We're observers, and we see everything, into things almost, I guess. And I guess a successful artist would be someone who can translate what they're feeling.
Oh, that's one of my questions. Oh man, you jumped the gun.
But it was what you said about the car, it was so funny. Yesterday I was leaving the park and I was walking home, and there was this really modern apartment building by the park. And so, like, on the bottom floor, sometimes I guess they'll have, like, meetings or whatever. But kind of the shades were kind of pulled down a little bit on this meeting space that I just walked by. And I noticed it was all these people basically wearing kind of the same outfit and with their laptops in this seminar, kind of taking someone else's truth as their own and spreading that. But I think, at least for me as an artist, I'd rather kind of be the inventor almost, be the person who kind of creates that message and spreads it as opposed to just kind of I want to like find my own truth as opposed to kind of sitting in a classroom webinar or something and listening to someone else's and taking that as mine.
Yeah, taking notes and trying to make sure you remember all the good points.
Yeah.
So yeah, what is your work about? What is it? How would you describe your work?
I think over the past year that's been a struggle of mine, is to define it. And there's been shows that I've been a part of that had very specific themes on politics, or the big one now is like gender and homosexuality. Gender's kind of the big one right now. But I started realizing, comparing my work to other people's in these shows, that one, it wasn't political. I wasn't making a statement. It wasn't sexual or not, intentional sexuality. There was no shock factor. So I think my work is really about being aesthetically beautiful in an original way. And if I can accomplish that, because it was funny, on the way over here I was thinking about, as people, no matter how good we are, how great we aspire to be, we spend so much of our time putting horrible things out into the world and experiencing those horrible things, whether it's something like littering or having bad thoughts towards people, or being in a rush and having sidewalk rage or subway rage, or whatever that may be. And so for me to be able to fight all those demons and be able to create something that is aesthetically beautiful, even if I only think it is, and it's original to me, and it's something that I created, I think that's enough for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You're fighting the demon of sidewalk rage.
Yeah. So if you can come out of life, daily experiences, especially living in New York, and produce something beautiful at the end of it, that's kind of like a home run to me.
Did you go to art school, or did you come to art on your own, self-taught?
Self-taught. My mom is a painter, realist painter. Never went to school. There was a time there that it was something that I wish I would have done. But the older I get, I think I'm kind of grateful I had to find out some things from experience.
Yeah. There are a lot of folks that I've talked to that are just completely self-taught, or they just took a class here or there, and that there's not a diploma or a degree you get at the end of it, but because there is no end of it. But to go through that process, learning it for yourself, it's sometimes there's less validation in it, and sometimes there's actually more, because you're like, oh no, I know that because I learned it myself. Nobody told me that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you said I would define a successful artist. How do you define success in general? If I just say the word successful, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
That's definitely changed over the past few years for me. I think kind of my definition, how I would feel successful is What would I define success as? Having not only a good relationship with the people around me, but having a good solid relationship with myself, which typically happens when I'm really inspired and creating lots of work. That's kind of what I would, and like living a life where I'm not hurting anyone in a real life, and having an appropriate relationship with everything besides art. Having an appropriate relationship as far as romantic relationships, and making sure that the relationship I have with my art is fully, I don't even know a word for it. Yeah.
It's like just at the center of your life.
That kind of peace, that balance, and that, the love that I give my art and the love that it gives in return, and that nice balance. That's kind of, my idea of success.
Yeah, it's funny. I've had I've taken time, where my art practice has fallen away for a while, and I don't do it, and I start to feel weirder and weirder and weirder. And then finally I go, it's because I need to make some more work. It doesn't even matter if it's good. I just need to get back in the studio. And then I do. And it's like art is the lover that never leaves me or has a problem if I'm gone for a long time. She's like, it's okay, honey. She's like the most loyal lover in the world.
No, it's so true. And really, but it's the first thing that you give up on, or the first thing that suffers. Whether it's working a day job or a new relationship or stresses of kind of day-to-day life.
Yeah, how do you handle your time management? What is your how does your art practice fit in? And do you have any strategies for how you handle putting that all together? It's a lot.
Well, I think it's kind of like if you're dating someone and they're not returning your texts or your phone calls, and they're like, I just haven't had time, I've been so busy, No, you always have time. Like you could work 12, 15 hours a day, not have a cell phone, but if you're crushing on someone, you're going to find a way to get to a payphone and call them. So it's the same thing with the relationship that one has with their art. It's you'll find a way. I mean, there's been times where I had maybe $3 to my name, and 2 of that went to a cup of coffee, and 1 went to a sketch pad. Yeah. At the Chinese grocer or whatever. So there's always, if you want it bad enough, some of it, is habitual.
What are some good habits that you feel like have worked for you?
Definitely the active creative process, but even more so the, time for reflection and not overworking yourself, and realizing that reflection, and whether it's brainstorming or meditation or just kind of, walking through your neighborhood, experiencing it, that's just as much of an important part to your work as actual pen to paper, I think. And that way you kind of get something that's really well-rounded. And
yeah, you said pen to paper. Is that sort of what is your preferred medium, and or do you really dabble a lot? Do you go in different directions a lot?
I do dabble a lot, but I would say that probably my main medium that I feel the most comfortable with is ink pen on paper, or oil stick, anything that has kind of that drawing kind of.
It goes back to the line?
That goes back to the line. Lately, it's been communicating as much as I can through a minimal use of line. So and then kind of in groupings of drawings as well, anywhere from like 1 to 5 drawings that are very similar. Self-portraits, kind of trying to communicate that intensity of a self-portrait or how I'm feeling at that moment in, just a very few amount of lines.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the base, kind of the foundation of my practice, and whether it will stay minimum or whether it will continue to kind of build from that, I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the pleasure of the process, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I've seen your work. I've seen you working in oil paint as well, and I guess that was when you came to Starry Night for an artist residency. I got to see you really explore oil quite a bit, and that was really cool. So I thought, oh, well, then that's the new direction. That's just what he does. But
I do a lot of experimenting.
Yeah.
And then once I get discouraged enough, then I go back to what I know. Mm-hmm. It's funny, all artists have some weird relationship with oil paint. I don't know what it is. Like, whether you hate it or not, you always feel like you need to be able to master it. No one's like stressed out about acrylic, or no one's stressed out about marker or pencil or whatever, but everyone feels like they have to be an oil painter. So I go back and forth and using it, and most of the time I won't show those pieces, and typically after using really paint in general, I realize how much drawing media it really is for me.
Wow. So one of my questions, I know, well, I know a bit about what's happened for you more in the last year and then kind of recently in your art career-wise. Oh, it's wine time. We've got to just... Oh, yeah. Shouldn't even be edited out. We've just got to keep it
real.
Thank you. But I know that you had a sale, a cool sale to someone who, I don't know if you can say their name or not, but you were super excited and for very good reason.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
So I ended up...
Cheers.
Oh,
to that and to all of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I ended up showing a piece in Miami at Select Fair with a gallery, and that was really, that was kind of, at that point it wasn't whether I sold it or not, but luckily I did, and that was helpful, of course. But yeah, so that was kind of like a big deal. I don't think, not necessarily the money, but kind of just that accomplishment of someone feeling like your work was something they were willing to invest in.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's not something they need. Art is not something that people really need as far as like a roof, food, water type situation. They don't need to own it. But for someone to feel like that they do is kind of flattering and encouraging.
It's kind of an honor.
Yeah. It's a big, thanks. Wow.
You get me. And I got to give you something that really matters to you.
I appreciate that.
You gave up, other food options for this.
Yeah. Yeah, so that
or you have so much money you really didn't give up much, but still.
So it definitely was a nice thing that happened that kind of has made me, it put a little gas in my tank.
Yeah, in more ways than one, I imagine. So when you said you went to Select Fair and you showed, I remember you were in one of the booths near the exposure program, and you said it wasn't really about selling. What was it about for you before the sale happened? What was it about outside of the selling part?
I think sharing, being able to share my work. I think there's so many opportunities to share your work, and a lot of times you go at things blindly when you first start showing, and you kind of learn trial and error, what's kind of a venue or what type of thing that you want to be part of. But when you're part of something like Select Fair, where a lot of people are seeing your work, it's great publicity, but also it's kind of that acknowledgement's huge. You know, you're not just really, it's great to show with like your friends and all your friends to come and stuff like that. It's really nice, but it's also really great to get that, that kind of respect, I guess.
Yeah.
Recognition. That's the word I'm looking for.
Recognition. Okay, so I think like this is my last question, unless you have anything that you're just dying to tell our listening.
That was quick.
It was, yeah. I mean, they're just maybe still around 20, 30 minutes.
Nothing wrong.
Short, sweet, to the point.
I like that.
That's your name, date of birth, your rank.
Your social.
But okay, are you a morning lark or night owl? It's like there's so many presumptions that people have about when people are creative and what that means about them, and you have to be this certain stereotype. And I just think there's all kinds. So I'm kind of curious. What are you?
I think I like spending my mornings reflecting. I'm really good at kind of honing in on what's going on. I mean, it could be on the train or at a coffee shop or walking the dogs. I'm just really kind of cerebral in the mornings, and then at night it's very active as far as like creating work. Yeah.
So do you wake up early in the mornings on your own normally? Is that a good time for you, or is it more like you're a stay up late person?
Like when you're in high school and you don't enjoy like all these like Moby Dick and all these books, and like you hate them, and they're like, oh, most horrible books you've ever read, or, whatever, because you're told to read it. But then when you read it by choice, it's actually really amazing. Same thing with like waking up. So on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, if I have to get up at, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning, it's the most horrible, painful process ever. I mean, just nothing is right until I have at least 3 coffees in me. But then if it's like a day off and it's like I can kind of get up whenever, I'm determined when I go to bed at night that I'm going to sleep till 1 in the afternoon. I end up getting up at 8. And I'm like fresh as a daisy because it's my decision to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, not someone else's.
Fresh as a daisy. So you're all of the above, really.
I mean, my goal in the future is to survive on less sleep.
I think it happens naturally. I do. I mean, you're in your early 30s?
Yeah.
As I hit my mid-30s, I suddenly needed less sleep, and it went down to like 6-7 hours just fine. I even dipped down to 5 for a while. I was like the most productive. I
finally got down to like 9.5, 10.
You're like maybe one day.
And
8.
if that doesn't happen, I'm like dry heaving for the first hour that I'm awake.
And on that note, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell anybody where they can find out more about your work or your website, anything?
Yes, Ehren Clodfelter on Instagram.
And how do you spell it? I know it's an interesting spelling.
EHRENCLODFELTER, the @ beforehand, or the same thing, .tumblr.com. You'll see more of my work and such.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
I can't wait to give you a post-interview hug. Bye.